Great, let's get right back into it. We are on to DLC Runaway for Step 1 in Our Lives, Beginnings, and Always. So let's go. After a couple hours at the playground by herself, it had gotten firmly into afternoon. It's interesting, like, the way they write things. If you're reading it in your head, you'd be like, oh, it's nicely written. Well, when you're trying to read it out loud, some of it seems like it's worded weirdly. You're on the swing set with your feet buried in the sand when you spotted Lizzie in the distance. She was rushing over like something was on her tail, chasing her. You knew she would be coming, but was she that excited to get to the park? Instead of nabbing the swing beside yours, Lizzie stopped in front of you. She bent over, balanced her hands on her knees, and panted. Did you hear? Hear what? Lizzie bounced back up. Her golden brown... Her eyes blown wide. You only saw her this worked up when she found a new hiding place for Mom's sugar stash. It's about Cove. Cove? Lizzie rarely brought him up herself, and never with this much urgency. What was this about? You listened confused as Lizzie explained. I just came out when I saw lots of people gathered around in the middle of the street. They were talking kind of quietly, so I don't think I was supposed to hear. But that just means it was important. So I stuck up and I heard everything. She paused dramatically. Clearly she wanted you to say something. So, what did you hear? Tell me. You don't really care. You just look back at her. What did you hear? Seeing that she had your attention, Lizzie continued. Cove was missing. Oh no. So he ran away. He left a piece of paper for Mr. Holden to tell him he was going away and would be gone for a long time. And no one's seen him since. Now they're searching the whole neighborhood. The grown-ups were even saying that if they don't find Cove soon, they'll call the police. The police? You had seen police officers around town now and then, but you had never talked to one before, much less dealt with them. It was an intimidating thought. Was Cove going to be arrested for running away? You watched as your sister began to pace in front of you. I know Mom said Cove was sad about moving here, but running away from home is crazy.
Jeez.
Where else is he gonna go anyway? I think, like, we all have that moment where you get mad over something stupid as a kid and you're like, I'm gonna run away. But I've never imagined actually doing it. Like, who actually is running away? Like, where are you going to go? Like, have you thought through what you have? Or I guess the whole point is, as a kid, you don't think it through. But I don't know. It just seems so a silly, dangerous thing to do. But I get that, like, from a kid's perspective, it doesn't, come off that way. I don't know. I want to find him. I hope someone finds him. Yeah, I got tons. I go to tons of places you didn't answer. I want to find him. Lizzie scrunched her face up, thinking deeply for a moment. Then she nodded and planted her hands on her hips, determined. I'm gonna look too. You are? Mm-hmm. We can play at the park any day, and the more people there are looking, the quicker someone will find him. Maybe I'll be the one who does. I'm the best at hide and seek after all. It seemed like Lizzie wanted to look, not only because she was concerned about Cove, but also because it was the most interesting thing to happen this week. Wish me luck. Before you could say anything, she ran off in the opposite direction from where she came. You were left in the dust in a matter of moments. That was your sister for you. But Lizzie's appearance in this crisis faded to the back of your mind just as quickly. Cove. He told his dad he was leaving to go somewhere by himself. It was surprise news at first, but that sounded like something he'd do when you considered it again. I'm gonna check something. Okay, so, consider it again. Unfortunately, you had no idea where he could have gone. You thought hard. There were hills behind your house. He had gone there the first time you met him. But someone would have checked there already. They wouldn't need the police for that. Cove must be far away, or hiding somewhere, if the whole neighborhood was looking for him. You swung back and forth, your lips pursed in contemplation. If I were Cove, where would I go? Lizzie had said Cove was crazy for running away from home, but he never considered Sunset Bird his home, did he? His real home was somewhere else. There was only one place that came to mind that might be important enough for Cove to go off like this. It was a good idea, except how was he going to get there? Could he take the bus? Was he going to walk the whole way? You didn't know what direction he needed to take. But, wait. There was only one way he could go. Going down the street just led to the beach. So that couldn't be right. Going to either side would mean he'd get stuck by buildings and fences and big slopes, like the one behind your house. That left going up the street. You knew that road. It led to the main part of town, and kept going all the way to the city limits. Cove didn't know the area well. He didn't think he'd want to go off that road onto some random other street, which meant if someone followed that path, they might find him somewhere along it. The grown-ups seemed to be looking in the neighborhood, so You had to help him for search. You had to go after Cove yourself. I want to see if we can go talk to him. You're worried about Cove and didn't have to bother anyone. Plus, you might be wrong. It was your idea, so you should be the one to check them. You rushed to where you had abandoned your flip-flops and slipped them on, soft against the sand as you left the playground. You went right up along the main street, keeping an eye out for Cove. No one else had the same idea as you, it seemed, because you were completely alone there. You would think his dad would consider this. You passed through your whole neighborhood, and then the next one over, and the next. Your worry festered like a wound the longer you searched for your friend. Oh, good friend. Just how hard had Cove gone? You kept walking. You even called out for Cove a few times, but you didn't see that familiar mop of green hair anywhere. After a while, the sun began to dip out of the sky. It would be dark soon, and there was still no sign of your neighbor. You weren't even in the residential district at this point. You had reached center part of town. Yeah, I imagine he's probably got some footage on us, though. There was at once strange and familiar. You'd been here before, of course, but never without your moms close by. They would drive you. Your footsteps slowed. You started second-guessing your decision to go ahead by yourself. It wasn't like you knew for sure where Cove went. Cove? You shouted his name a few times, as you had periodically this entire time, but there was nothing. Maybe he's not going this way. Was he somewhere else? Had someone found him already? You turned back. Well, we'll keep going. You were able to make it this far. You had to continue the search. With that in mind, you pushed yourself to walk a little faster. People said that this was a really teeny town, but to you it felt absolutely gigantic. Eventually, the business parts of town ended too. There was no sidewalk anywhere, only a long, expansive road. You walked on the grass instead. Onward was the only option. Your journey stubbornly continued. Your feet hurt, you were tired, you were on your own, but somehow you had reached the edge of Sunset Bird. That's what the sign told you. You had lived in Sunset Bird forever, and it was a very rare occasion that you'd see this sign. Most everything in your life happened inside the city limits. The endless road ahead seemed scary in a way. It paralyzed you, and finally put an end to your forward momentum. You scanned your surroundings instead of dwelling on that. You deeply hoped he hadn't gone past that sign either. Cove? The previous times you called his name, there had been no answer. You couldn't be surprised that one didn't come this time until... Jamie? A dark bob just behind one of the exit signs' legs shifted. As you squinted as it continued to move. The more you stared, the more your eyes adjusted, and the more the dark blob resembled a person. Then you realized just who it was. It was Cove. He was here. You actually found him. He hesitantly got up from where he'd been sitting, as if to make sure he had actually heard something. Then he caught sight of you, his eyes wide behind his glasses. There you are. Are you crazy? I'm so happy you're here. I've been looking for you everywhere. I knew you'd be here. You were just stunned. I guess I knew you'd be here. Cole finally blinked as you ran up to him, your feet still aching. Hey! How did you find me? Lizzie told me you wrote a letter that you were leaving. You always wanted to go back home, so I thought you must come this way. And that was all he said. After all this, maybe you didn't realize how seriously adults were taking it. What are you going to do now? Are you okay? You should head back now. What are you going to do now? I'm going to keep going. He spoke firmly and his gaze turned toward the long stretch of road leaving town. Everyone's looking for you. That caught his attention. He found it.
Really?
They are? Yeah, the whole neighborhood. Lizzie told me they might even call the police. You might even get arrested. What? Why? I don't know. Because you tried to run away, probably? I'm not going to be arrested. Although Cove said that, he looked a little worried over the news. Come on, Cove. Let's go home. No. He spoke crossly. You were thirsty and exhausted, and you weren't sure you could keep going back and forth like about this. Why not? How come? Why? Why can't we go? Just go. You're stupid. I don't understand why you can't go back. Why not? Your shout ceased, caused him to flinch, but not enough to budge. At first, Cove was quiet. You started to think he wouldn't say anything. Then he spoke. My mom called today to check up on me and stuff. She asked what Sunset Bird was like and how I was doing. It was okay. But when I asked if she'll come here, Mom said she couldn't. I can't go back either. Not right now. She has to move to somewhere else first. Cove glared at the ground. His voice cracked as he continued.
It's not fair.
Why can't I even see her anymore? He used his uncasted arm to rub both of his eyes. I'm gonna go myself. I don't need anyone to take me. How are you going to get to your mom's place? That's such a bad idea. This is all just too much, and you started to cry. Do you know the direction to your old house? You're being selfish. How are you going to get to your mom's place? He just wanted to see his mom. Maybe you would have had the idea to run away too, if you were Cove, but that doesn't mean it'll work. I'll walk there. I brought supplies. Isn't it really far? Cove was silent for a moment. He'd poked a hole in his perfect plan. Then he shook his head like he was trying to clear it. When he spoke some more, it was mostly to himself. If I don't see Mom, then she's... Fresh tears glistened in Cove's red-rimmed eyes. He suddenly tried to blink them away, but then slipped down his cheeks. He waited for Cove to continue. Mom doesn't call that much. I haven't seen her in so long. Cove hiccuped, wiping his face with the back of his arm. His glasses got shoved up awkwardly as a result. If I don't go, she'll be gone. She'll forget about me. She won't do that. How do you know? She's your mom. She loves you. Your mom always says that, so it must be true for Cove's mom, too. Cove stiffled. He seemed conflicted. I'm not sure if that's right. You were at a standstill. Everything will be okay if we go back home. We can't stay here forever, and we can't go out there. We gotta head back. Then we'll stay out here. I'm not gonna go back either. Everything will be okay if we just go home. Cove's brows furrowed, a scowl appearing on his lips. Nothing's gonna be okay. Turned away from you, stared at his back. You couldn't just stop. You don't know how to convince him, so you kept quiet, staring up at the starry sky. After a few minutes of sullen silence, Cove twisted back around. He wouldn't look at you in the eye. Okay, let's go. He must have known deep down that he couldn't go further than this, even if he wasn't happy about it. And that was that. Together, you walked away from the exit sign. Your feet hurt a lot at this point, and you were so tired, but you convinced him. You were bringing Cove home, and that's what mattered. On a long walk back, it was only thanks to the occasional street lamp and faint moonlight that you could see in the dark night. You wondered if everyone was still looking for Cove, and you too, probably. Do you think they called the police after all? No, probably not. You didn't sound confident, though. You still hoped he was right. You didn't want to go to jail. You weren't sure how much time passed. All you knew was that one moment you were fighting the drooping of your eyelids while shuffling near Cove on the sidewalk, and the next you were snapping back to attention by a blaring beep of a horn. Cove froze. You whipped around to see a car approaching you. It was difficult to make out who it was. And the headlights were so blinding. Instead of continuing down the road, the car slowed near where you sat. The window rolled down, revealing the face behind the wheel. It was very familiar. Mom? She shouted back, and not just because there was some distance between you and her. Where have you kids been? I've been looking everywhere for you. I'm sorry, Mom. She stopped looking at you instead, staring hard straight ahead. Both her hands were gripping the wheel. Guilt ate you up inside. Get in. Let's get you two home. That at least made her showing up worth it. Your feet were aching like crazy from all the walking you'd done today. You yanked open the side door, slipped inside the back seat, then clambered over so Cove had enough room to climb in too. He followed in wordlessly, tucking his backpack near his feet. Your mom looked at you and Cove in the rearview mirror. The two of you had us extremely worried. That wasn't a good thing to do, not at all. Shamefaced, you both nodded as one.
Sorry.
Mrs. Wonder. Sorry, Mom. She softened immediately, not enough to actually let it go, though. You have to apologize to everyone else, too. With that, Mom started the car up again, and you were off. For the rest of the car ride, no one said anything. You thought all of you were pretty tired. In fact, you must have dozed off at some point, because you woke to the sound of the engine stopping. You yawned and got out of the car. Cove came out after, putting his backpack on again. Mom locked the car door and motioned you two towards the house. She opened the front door and let you go in first. Molly appeared quickly. She must have been waiting nearby. There was a phone in her hand. It worried you, thinking about who she might have been talking to. The tight line of her shoulders relaxed when she saw you and Cove. Oh, thank goodness, you found both of them. Yes, I did. They were walking down the main street together. What were you two doing there this time of night? Do you have any idea how far that is? How unsafe? He peeked at Cove. He still looked exhausted. His eyes were poofy, and there were dried tear tracks stuck to his cheeks. I wanted to see my mom. Jamie came to get me. My own mom shared a look. You weren't sure what it meant, but they always did it. You wondered if they could read each other's minds. Since they were communicating telepathically, you stole a glance around the house. Lizzie wasn't anywhere in sight. Could she be outside somewhere, searching for Cove still? Where's Lizzie? She's just in her room, fast asleep, the same way you should have been. She came back earlier. She had been out looking for Cove after accidentally finding out he was missing. She tried to pretend otherwise, but she was worried. Said she checked all the hiding places she could think of, but she couldn't find Cove. You and Cove exchanged remorseful glances at that, and Molly noticed the discomfort.
Okay.
You two must be sleepy. You can sit down wherever you like. Mommy smiled warmly and motioned to the living room. Cove looked up at her, then lumbered over. He followed close behind. The living room wasn't far or separated by a wall, so you heard your mom talking softly. He wanted to go see his mother. Poor thing.
Well,
That explains it, at least. Still, I'm not sure it excuses it. It was so dangerous to go off into town like that. He's having a hard time right now. You can't expect a child to handle it maturely. True, it can't be helped. But that's enough of that. We should tell Cliff and the others that he's here before the panic gets out of hand. There could be riots.
Is that all right?
I'll call and go to the front to tell everyone's still out there. You can keep an eye on the kids. Make sure they don't take any more trips today. Got it, hun. Cove just sat there on the couch, setting his backpack down beside him. He stared at his hands. I'm sorry, Jamie. He faced him quietly. I didn't want to make you feel bad. I don't want to fight. And you won't do it again? I'm sorry, too. You don't have to be. It wasn't your fault. It's alright. Despite Cove's protests, you couldn't help it. It would have been too hard not to say sorry after a disagreement. But having him apologize didn't make you feel much better. Did make you feel much better, I think. When it seemed silence would descend upon the two of you again, the front door opened. Your mom was back with Mr. Holden close behind him. He made a beeline for the couch, his gaze trained on his son. God, are you alright? Strands of his hair had fell out of his ponytail. His eyes were darkened like he'd been crying too. Cove stared up at his dad, his own eyes wide behind the frames of his glasses. He really hadn't expected it to be such a big deal. I'm okay. Good, that's good. I'm so glad to hear that. He clasped a hand on his son's shoulder, attempting a smile, but the corners of his lips twitched in spasms as if they wanted to wilt into a frown instead. Cove seemed to have that effect on him. Mr. Holden turned to you, still smiling weakly. I'm so happy you're alright too, Jamie. Then he looked at your moms. Thanks for your help, as always. He laughed pitifully.
I'm sorry.
And I'm very sorry for ruining your afternoon with this. I can't apologize enough. It was no trouble, Cliff, really. It couldn't be helped in a way. Something was bound to happen sometime. Besides, he wasn't the only one who decided it was a good idea to disappear today. Exactly. We were just happy the kids are safe and sound. Not for the first time that day, you recalled your original meeting with Cove. He had ran away then too, only not as far as he had today. Cove must have had a similar thought because he mumbled an apology. Sorry, Dad, I won't leave anymore, promise. Some life seemed to return to Mr. Holden thanks to his promise. This time around, his smile was more genuine.
I'm so glad.
That's a relief to hear. Next time you feel like running off, come to me first, okay? We can talk about it. I'm here for you. Cove nodded. His dad reached out and loosed his hair playfully. Although he made a face, Cove didn't try to dodge the hand as he usually did. Let's go home, bud. I'll bet you're as tired as I am. Mr. Holden took over carrying Cove's backpack, still clasped a free hand on his son's shoulder when he stood up from the couch. The five of you walked over to the front door so you could see them off. Mr. Holden thanked your moms profusely at least 3 more times before he walked out the door. Cove was made to follow. But he stopped and turned to you before stepping through the threshold. Thanks, Jamie. You're welcome. A teeny smile flitted across his lips, there and then gone. And with that, Cove left. When I closed the door behind them, you were particularly dead on your feet at this point. Your fatigue must have been obvious because your mom sent you right to bed with no more discussion on what happened that day. Once her head hit the pillow, your eyes slipped closed on their own. Your eyelids were so heavy you couldn't open them again until the next morning. You woke up much more at ease than you had felt when you were last conscious. It was almost like it was a dream. But it definitely wasn't. Your mom's faces when you saw them assured that. After breakfast, you sat down and your family went over yesterday's events in full. They were none too pleased that you went out to find Cove on your own. As punishment, your mom took away your TV purchases for the next few days. Lizzie was annoyed that she couldn't watch her shows with you around, but she adjusted. Whenever you expressed disappointment, your moms reminded you that they weren't punishing you for no reason. It was dangerous to go out on your own so late and without telling anyone. You could have gotten hurt, or worse. As upset as you were, you understood. Mr. Holden talked to Cove about what happened too. You didn't know what to say exactly, but Mr. Holden forgave Cove immediately. Didn't do anything to punish Cove for running away. He blamed no one but himself for Cove's desire to leave home. Caught your moms discussing it once in a hushed tone, frowning at each other. It was pretty serious. There was a word used you hadn't heard before. Self-flagellation. But there wasn't anything they could do to change Mr. Holden's mind. Your neighbors stopped you and Cove often for the next week or so to express their concerns and disapproval of the event. Still, as they always did, days continued to pass. So did talk about Cove running away. Things eventually returned to normal as they had to. Summer kept going and you kept having experiences you shared with Cove. Good! I'm hoping that this is going to make us better friends. I hope so much. I'm so excited for the last one. I can't wait. I really hope that this made some things better. We'll see going into the next one and the end of the next one. So I'm so excited. It'll be a big thing when we do the next episode. Cannot wait. Hope you're excited too. Thank you so much for following along with me, and we will see what happens the next time around, which will probably be sooner for me than for you, but is what it is. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in Sleepover.